Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Ad America. Thank you. Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, where our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to express, experience, and explore American culture through our diverse programs and facilities we have. And ladies and gentlemen, now you're watching Education USA Pre-Departure Orientation, where you will gain valuable insights and guidance for your upcoming educational journey to the United States. And now let us hear the opening remarks from the Acting Deputy Chief of Mission, U.S. Embassies, Jakarta. Everyone, please welcome Pak Jason Rebels.
Selamat pagi. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Ad America, and welcome to all of our friends watching online. We are so excited that so many of you have chosen to study in the United States. Maybe I'm biased, but I think the United States has the best universities in the world. And so I'm really glad that you'll be joining over 8,400 of your fellow Indonesians studying at one of our 4,000 amazing universities in the United States. This year's a really special year for U.S.-Indonesia relations, 2024. And you saw some of the branding during the video and behind me where it says 75. This is the 75th year of the United States and Indonesia being friends and partners. It's also the first year where we're implementing what we're calling the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. That might not sound like anything, but it's actually really important. I'll explain why. So last November, President Biden hosted President Jokowi at the White House, and they agreed to elevate our relationship to the highest relationship possible. And what they've asked us to do, they've challenged each of us, Indonesians and Americans, to work together and collaborate on every single challenge and issue that we face as citizens. So whether that's climate change or health cooperation, regional security, economic development, all the different parts of our relationship have been elevated. And it's important to all of us because it's all being done by people. And that's why I wanted to raise it today. Because as students going to the United States, you're really a part of this new comprehensive strategic partnership. I'm hoping that you're going to make connections with people at the universities where you're studying that you can keep in touch with when you come back to Indonesia. Maybe you can start new exchange programs at those universities or new joint research projects. Maybe those universities and your university can work together and create something we'd never even thought of before. I'm really challenging each of you to think about how, when you're in the United States, you can be the best ambassador for Indonesia possible, and then come back and be an ambassador for the United States here in Indonesia. I'm really excited that all of you are here today. I really appreciate all of the alumni who are joining us to participate in today's panels, all of my friends from the embassy that are going to be talking about different issues as well, and the administrators from U.S. universities that have joined us. So I won't take any more time. I just wanted to say congratulations. We look forward to your educational journey in the United States, and please come back to Ad America and share that journey with others. Terima kasih banyak.
All right. Thank you so much, Pak Jason Rebels, as the Acting Deputy Chief of Mission from U.S. Embassy Jakarta for the remarks given. And now I would like to invite all the speakers, moderators, as well the Education USA Indonesia advisors to come up to the stage as we are going to take a picture together. Please welcome to all the speakers, moderators, Education USA advisors, as well with our speakers on here, joining us via online. Please come to the stage. Let's move a bit forward. Ladies and gentlemen, please move a bit forward. Okay. Looking good. A bit closer. Another camera. All good. Thank you, everyone. Please come back to your seat. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to proceed to the next agenda, which is the discussions. And for the first session, I would like to invite our moderator. She is an Education USA Indonesia advisor. And everyone, please welcome Kak Medinar Latupono.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing this morning? Having a good time? Have already talked to someone next to you? Where are you? Okay, great. So thank you so much for coming this morning. My name is May, one of the EducationUSA advisors here at America. I wonder how many of you actually come to EducationUSA for your preparation to study in the US. I saw some familiar faces. I saw you on Zoom or in person. How many? Wow, hello. Hi, nice to see you again. Thank you so much. For anyone of you who is new to EducationUSA, let me introduce you a little before we proceed with our programs. So EducationUSA is an advising network from the US Department of State. We are in more than 170 countries worldwide, but here in Indonesia, we have 7 centers. There are, as you see in the map here, we have one in Aceh, one in Medan, 2 in Jakarta and at the US Embassy, and here at America, Surabaya, Malang, and Makassar. We have in total 9 advisors. So if you guys or anyone you know are planning to study in the US or thinking about studying in the US and still do not know whom to talk, please book an appointment with us. Talk to one of the advisors, and we can discuss more about your plan from the beginning, from researching your program, researching your study, about scholarship or any funding, and then we can help you prepare your documents. We can review your essay for you and resume. We can also talk about information about visa, and right now we have the annual program, the pre-departure orientation. So are you guys ready for today's event, our first session out of 3? We are joined online live from Seattle. She is an international admissions counselor from the University of Washington. Any one of you going to University of Washington? Oh, I saw 300 people over here. Congratulations. Okay, we have Sarah Dawson. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's super wonderful to see you all here and online, and especially if there's some people coming to the University of Washington, Seattle. Hopefully I can see you on campus once you've arrived. For today's kind of first session, we'll be talking about, some kind of key pieces of information to consider, when you're planning your travel to the United States. We'll also be talking about the building blocks, kind of common terminology, common things that you'll come across when it comes to higher ed in the United States, as well as some tips for success. And that's kind of based on observations from working with international students over the years. And from what I've seen has really worked for students in the past, and kind of what I wish I could tell every student if I'm able to have, a one-on-one with them before they come to the United States. So first and foremost, just kind of going over briefly, like I said, we'll talk about some kind of guiding principles. These are things that when I was thinking about, what makes a successful international student, what are kind of common themes, common kind of lessons that they take with them, and we'll kind of use that throughout the presentation. And then we'll actually go into, considering how you travel to the U.S., some key questions to ask yourself, before you book your travel plans, your plane tickets, when you're packing your suitcases. Like I talk about, some of the common terminology or kind of the common building blocks of higher ed in the U.S., some kind of common behaviors, kind of common practices that you will come across. And then, like I said, those tips for success, what that looks like in action. So when it comes to like the guiding principles themselves, the top 3 that I was kind of thinking of is first to plan ahead. Usually the most successful students when it comes to, planning ahead when it comes to immigration or academics or even just, their personal life and success and development are those who plan ahead and think long term. In addition to that, use reliable resources. with the increase of use of social media and other kind of online resources, it's wonderful that there is so much information out there available to you. However, you also have to be aware that sometimes there's misinformation or there's some resources that are maybe outdated, and so it's really important that you're consulting your university, government resources like the Department of State's website or EducationUSA. It's really important to know and discern what are reliable resources from maybe those that maybe you should veer away from. And in addition to that, the importance of asking questions. I know that sounds super like basic or obvious, but throughout your journey in the United States, it's important to ask questions if you're concerned, if you aren't sure about something. It never hurts to reach out to, again, your university, to your peers, to your classmates, or to advisors through wonderful services like Education USA. So in terms of actually traveling to the United States, some things that kind of come to mind before you even think about, booking the plane ticket, packing that suitcase, it's important to ask yourself, are there certain steps that you need to complete with your university before you can even arrive on campus? Questions like, did you submit, your final transcripts and your test scores? Have you had that, tucked away and ready to go? In addition to that, is there an orientation, whether that be online or in person, that you need to register for and attend, just so that, when you book your travel plans, you're planning ahead, you're going to be there on time to, to move into the dorms, to attend your orientation. Have you submitted a housing application? If you're going to be living on campus at the institution that you're staying at, usually there's like a process in place where you're submitting an application. Maybe they're matching you with a roommate to live on campus, and then you actually select where you will be living. It's really important that you follow that process, as well as, read all of the necessary contracts and documentation. In addition to that, oftentimes there are certain immunization requirements that you have to meet for your institution, usually like meningitis, other kind of basic immunizations. Again, these are really important. These are important things to kind of assess before you come and travel over. The reason being is because some universities might place holds on your account, or it might cause other problems later down the road if you just show up to campus and you haven't done those necessary steps before arriving. So kind of as we're going through the presentation itself, my hope is that the cogs are moving in your mind, and you're thinking about all the things, you're asking yourself those necessary questions. In terms of kind of the key considerations when you're traveling, when you think about transportation, I think that most students just think, okay, yes, I got to book that plane ticket from here to here. But it's really important to actually think about how are you actually going to get to the airport, right? Is someone going to drop you off there? Will you need to take a bus or a train? In addition to that, when students, oftentimes they think about, I arrive in this city, but they forget, oh, how am I actually going to get from the airport to the campus itself? Or, if you're arriving a little earlier before move-in, maybe you're staying at a hotel, or maybe you're starting a lease at an apartment. So think about, hey, do I need to book an Uber? Do I need to get a taxi service? Do I have, family that's in the area that can drive me to the campus? It's really important to think about those things. Additionally, there are many institutions where they, will provide that transportation service to incoming international students. So reach out to your university, talk to the admissions team or the international student services team, because usually, if they have a lot of international students coming in every single year, they can provide you a lot of guidance, advice. Like, for example, with students come to the University of Washington. So those of you who, I'll be seeing in the fall, usually people fly into Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. And, they can either take an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi service, up north, or they might use the Link Light Rail, which is like our version of public transportation. And there's 2 stations that are near the university. And so, wherever you plan to attend in the fall, I would say just reach out and say, hey, how do students normally get to campus? Where airport do students normally fly into? That kind of insight can help make things a little bit easier when it can feel very overwhelming when you have to book those plane tickets or book other kinds of transportation. In addition to that, thinking about luggage, the logistics of luggage, I think it's, when you get really excited and you think about all the things that you want to pack, all the things that you're going to need throughout your education, it can be really easy to kind of get carried away and want to just pack everything up and take it with you. But the reality is that, if you're just traveling by yourself, it can be really, really overwhelming to have like 2 really, really heavy suitcases and a backpack, and you've come off of a very, very long flight. So it's important that when you pack, you're being realistic. What are you actually going to use? What are you going to wear? What do you really need with you? What are those essentials? And what are things that maybe you can leave at home? Maybe things that, if you're going to go home during the holidays, are you able to bring some of the clothes back if the seasons are changing and bring new clothes with you? Other kind of important details to consider too is how much, how much can you actually realistically bring with you, right? If you're bringing things, you have to put them, up above where you're sitting, and you have to take them across the airport and into the taxi service or onto the bus. It can be really, really physically taxing on your body. So just keep that in mind. And also a really core kind of component of this is, what are you actually allowed to bring? If you're traveling internationally, and especially if you're having several stops along the way, there are certain regulations, certain restrictions on what you can actually bring into every single country. So make sure, again, that you're planning ahead, that you're using reliable resources like TSA to know what you can and cannot bring across international borders. And last but not least, this is kind of the document checklist that we give to students on what you need to bring when you're traveling internationally. These might be documents that you are asked to present if folks have questions. And so it's really, really important that you have those documents on hand or like with your carry-on. Do not put them in your checked luggage. If something happens to your luggage where it gets lost, and you don't have access to those documents, it could present, a very big issue. Or, if you're entering the United States, you'll need those documents on hand to enter, right? Some other things to consider is when you're traveling across time zones, or different parts of the world, you're going to have different types of climate that you're going to come across, and that's going to inform the kind of clothing that you bring with you, right? There are some places in the United States that have very, very extreme weather, like very, very hot during certain times of the year and very, very cold. If you're not entirely sure, I would say, give it a nice little Google search, or even, like I said, reach out to your institution, ask your university, what is the common kind of temperature range during, this set months of the year, so that you can plan at least for half of the year. And then if you go home during the holidays, and then you can bring more clothes with you when you come back. In addition to that, as you're, maybe traveling which way across the world, some other things to consider is time difference. I never underestimate the power of how disoriented you could be by traveling across different places. Maybe you're stopping, you're having a long layover, and you're coming over. It can be really, really tiring, and that's why it's really important that you plan ahead, right? Because if you're already naturally very tired, you don't want to just like forget that maybe you checked a suitcase and then you're on your way and you forgot it along the way. In addition to that, I always think it's really important to continue to be communicating with your family or your friends as you're traveling internationally, just for your own safety, especially if you're by yourself. It doesn't hurt to check in with them, give them a call once, hey, I've landed successfully, I have a layover for a couple hours and then I'll be over here. Or if, just sending them a text along the way would be really great. And then, asking questions, if some of these airports, if you've never been to them before, can be very large, very overwhelming, and very, very confusing. And so, if there's staff at the airport, if you're trying to find your terminal, if you're trying to find where your luggage is, it never hurts to ask questions. If you're trying to, catch, a taxi service or some other kind of rideshare service to get from the airport to another place, just make sure that you are using like a reliable service. It's, really important that students aren't just, getting into cars with strangers and going elsewhere. There are those companies like Uber and Lyft out there where, there's kind of that built-in safety measures. Another thing to consider, kind of before you arrive, just thinking about it, and once you actually get here, is the importance of protecting yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to communicating, hey, I've arrived here and, I've successfully gotten to the United States, or I've arrived on campus. It's really important that, they're in the know of where you are. I'm sure that your parents really care about your safety and want to make sure that you're getting there safely. Similarly, once you're coming onto campus, usually, you're, maybe talking to the International Student Services team. Maybe you're doing, the move-in process with the housing office at the university. It's really important that you're, communicating to them, once you've arrived. In addition to that, again, not to kind of scare anyone, but the reality is that, oftentimes international students are targeted by scammers, and maybe you've even seen articles about this online, students who maybe have fallen for scams and have, lost hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars. And so it's really, really important that while you're studying in the United States, you're being aware of this and that you're protecting yourself. Some kind of common scams that you'll come across. The first one being gift card scams. If you have someone call or email you and maybe they're claiming to be the IRS or the government or the police, or they're just someone impersonating being a professor or someone from the university and saying, hey, I need you to buy these gift cards for me and to send them over. Please do not fall for those scams. If you get an email that looks very suspicious, talk to, your international student advisor, even talk to your peers, your classmates, and say, hey, have you gotten an email like this? Does this look normal to you? Is this common? In addition to that, there's phishing scams. So those are usually folks who are reaching out through emails and impersonating being someone who's trying to hire someone, right? Like, oh, I'm a professor at the university and I'm looking for someone who can do this research project. It's, $100 a week. It's fully remote. It seems very like too good to be true. Again, if it seems very suspicious, talk to an international student advisor, because these are things that we can commonly come across and very easily identify if it is not real or valid. And again, like I kind of talked about with the gift cards, some people may try to impersonate being the government or other kind of officials, usually as a way to kind of scare international students. So maybe they'll try and call you and say, hey, you're in trouble, or there's a warrant out for your arrest. You need to send us this money, or, we're going to arrest you. That is never, ever how the U.S. government is ever going to contact you if you are ever in any kind of legal trouble. Again, talk to an international student advisor. Maybe your university might even have student legal services or another kind of like legal office on campus. Again, those are great resources to reach out to and be like, hey, I got this call. I'm really worried. I'm really scared. Am I in trouble? And usually they can hear it or look at whatever you've received and kind of discern if that's real or not. Some other kind of general guidance also is just be wary of, other kind of online scams, with social media and other things being available online. It's so easy to, just give up your credit card information or give up your personal information. But, if something is kind of pressing on you to, hey, give us your information, send us this money, generally speaking, take a breather, ask for help before you just, panic and give them your information. Similarly, it's really important to just keep an eye on your finances, right? I'm not sure if if your parents will be sending you money regularly and that's how you're going to go ahead and pay for tuition or other expenses. But it's really important that you're also aware of, how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, just in case if something does happen to your bank, that you're aware of that and that you can contact them immediately. Universities, international student advisors, banks, and the police are probably your best sources if you come across anything suspicious. So moving into kind of the next step, kind of the building blocks of higher ed in the United States. Obviously, your experience is going to vary a lot depending on the institution you go to, right? Where is it located in the U.S.? how big or small is the institution? Does it follow, a kind of traditional liberal arts kind of experience? So those kinds of things are going to inform what it's going to look like for you. When it comes to kind of the classroom settings and kind of the environment that you'll come across in the United States, I'm sure many of you will have probably seen, in movies and TV shows, maybe even photos of the campus that you'll be staying at. There's maybe traditional kind of course settings that you'll be in, maybe the traditional lecture styles where there's the tiered seating and there's maybe one presenter at the bottom with one kind of large screen or kind of board behind them. But you might also come across some non-traditional course settings. So, maybe they take trips out into local estuaries or nature, other kind of nature parks in the area, depending on where you are. Maybe you're visiting historic sites that are really important to the history of, the state or the region that you're staying in. Maybe you take trips to the museums. The classroom setting itself can really vary depending on, again, where your institution is located, as well as even what the course is itself, right? Depending on, the natural setting, the natural landscape, and maybe the history of that area itself might inform where professors decide to take you. In addition to that, in terms of the actual courses themselves, you'll notice that professors may often, pose questions to the class or maybe arguments or claims, and they'll ask students, do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts about this? Generally speaking, courses in the U.S. can be very, very discussion-based. So as opposed to, the kind of traditional kind of setting in a lot of other places where maybe just the professor talks and the students just listen for, 1 to 2 hours. Oftentimes you're engaging in discussion with the professor, maybe amongst other peers, or maybe even there will be exercises where you'll turn to your classmates, you'll talk about things, and then present kind of what your discussion was to the class. Additionally, you'll also find that a lot of your courses are probably requiring a lot of collaboration, communication skills, teamwork skills. Maybe you have to, do presentations, or maybe you'll work with a team and present, a business pitch to the class based on, what you learned and the certain theories that you're applying. And so it's really important that, while you're, in your classes themselves, it's important that you're studying the content that the professor is giving you, that the textbooks are teaching you, but that you're also understanding that your peers are also your resources. They are the ones that are really going to be helping facilitating your learning in the United States. In addition to that, some other kind of common norms, expectations, behaviors, practices, I guess you could say, that you'll come across that I kind of wanted to introduce to you all is first, the idea of a course syllabus. Because I think that this is something that's not too common maybe at the high school level, but it becomes very, very common once you step foot in an American higher ed classroom. Usually you'll have access to this either through like an online portal. So for example, if your university uses a service like Canvas, where they can post all the assignments, where you can put them, you can submit them online, or maybe where they post readings or announcements for the classes. And then some professors might even present physical printed out copies to you in the class. So, maybe on the first or second day of class, they'll hand them out. These syllabi will, include information like, what are the course objectives? What are you going to learn in this course? What are the professor's office hours? Sometimes they'll even put like the reading schedules or kind of what the weekly schedules will look like for, if you're, for example, like on a quarter system, what are the next 10 to 12 weeks going to look like? They might also put some basic information about, what are your final projects, your final exams going to look like? What are the rubrics? What are the key deadlines that you need to submit things by? As well as also the grading kind of rubric or the grading breakdown and the weighting system of that course, right? Is it going to be, 25% assignments, 25% exams, or, some other courses might also have an attendance component as well that will contribute to your grade. So it's really, really important that you read the course syllabus. The reason being is that oftentimes courses will have you even do like a little quiz based on did you read the course syllabus? And then also, as the course progresses and maybe they start talking about, hey, remember to submit these kind of key parts for your final projects. Usually that's in the syllabus itself, and so it's important that you know that ahead of time, as opposed to, when that deadline comes up and then you're like, oh, I don't actually know what this project is about. I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to about this. Be sure that you're communicating with your professor if you have questions, but make sure that you read the syllabus first. In addition to that, like I mentioned, office hours might be listed on the course syllabus. Essentially, the idea of office hours is that professors will regularly have certain times of the day during the week open where students can just come in, they can ask questions, they can just chat with them, kind of use that space however they like. I would say for office hours, if you're able to come with questions, if you're, not sure about some of the course content, but also questions about even just the professor themselves is welcome. Maybe if the professor does research in a particular area that you're really passionate about, or maybe the professor has kind of a work background that maybe you're interested in getting into in the future. You can talk to them and kind of almost do like an informational interview. How did you get to where you are now? What kind of research have you done? What kind of advice do you have, for me as someone that's starting out in the field? Generally speaking, these professors try to build, good relationships with their students, ideally close relationships with their students where they're kind of like peers. You'd be actually surprised by the number of professors that you'll come across that will, ask that you call them by their first name. And I think the idea is that, they want students to feel comfortable talking with them, asking those questions. So office hours, I think a lot of students get really worried and really anxious, like, oh, if I show up, what do I need to ask? What do I need to do? Even just showing up and introducing yourself and saying, hey, I'm an international student coming from Indonesia. I'm sure that, plenty of the faculty on campus would be really interested in learning about your experience coming to the States, and are willing to offer support if you need any or if you would like any. In addition to that, just talking about citations, when it comes to, citing your coursework or citing readings or resources when you write essays or do or present research, it's really, really important that you know how to create proper citations. The most kind of common ones that you'll come across is MLA format, APA format, but there are also ones called like Chicago style, a few other ones out there as well. And depending on your area of study, it usually tends to lean one way or the other. And so it's important that, again, on the syllabus, maybe it might say, hey, when you're writing your essays, your works cited or your references page all need to be APA or MLA style. And if you're not sure about how to do that, usually, like I said, go to office hours, or there's oftentimes like physical books or manuals that you can purchase that talk about, how to format those citations. And there's also online kind of citation generators or online resources as well. I think the most kind of well-known one is kind of the OWL, Purdue OWL citation, where online it kind of gives you samples of what those citations look like and kind of the format that it would follow. And if you're also not sure, just even from those online resources, because they can be kind of confusing, if you usually go to like the Writing Tutoring Center at your institution, it's very, very common that students will ask about how to create citations. Another kind of key piece to, enjoying your experience, in university in general and in the United States is how do you make friends, right? It can feel very nerve-wracking, very, maybe you have some anxiety about, oh, I'm going to be coming in. There's not too many international students from Indonesia there. I'm not too familiar with the area. How am I going to be able to make friends? These kind of opportunities hopefully will arise, in those first few weeks at the university. Usually there's a lot of social events, welcome events that are going on. And even just, those first few weeks of class are great opportunities to introduce yourself, to see familiar faces and try and build those connections. So one way that you might do that is through your roommates. Maybe if you're choosing to live on campus, maybe you're dorming with, American roommates that the university paired you with. Oftentimes they will give you their information, their contact information in advance. So, reaching out saying, hey, it's nice to meet you. My name is so-and-so. Hey, I'm new to this area in the United States. So, any kind of guidance, especially if that person is a local. Similarly, you'll have classmates who maybe have similar academic interests as you, or even maybe just similar personal interests. Even if you just come into class and you say, hey, is anyone sitting there? Hey, do you mind if I sit there? People are generally very, very friendly and are willing to strike up that conversation. And so I would say that, be ready to kind of introduce yourself, maybe talk about some of your experience, maybe being like, hey, I'm new to the area, or, is this your first time in this class, or have you had a class in this department before, or have you had a class with this professor before? Just anything to kind of strike up that conversation. And then who knows, maybe you'll end up sitting with them, for the rest of the quarter. In addition to that, there's other kind of student organizations and other kind of ways to meet people. Some of you might be familiar with the concept of like American, fraternities and sororities that are out there. If you watch American movies that, take place on college campuses, you oftentimes come across those. Usually they're focused around a particular philanthropy, and sometimes they even live together as well. So it's another way to find community. As well as other kind of sports and clubs. So, if there's intramural sports, maybe your school offers Division I, Division II, Division III sports. And there are also other kind of individual clubs and organizations that are focused around maybe cultural or ethnic backgrounds, or even just around, special interest groups. So, speaking from my experience in the university that I, attended and now work for, there are organizations for students of many different identities, Chinese student organization, Japanese student society, ones for really any and all identities out there. And there's also, even just fun clubs like, gaming club, anime club, knitting club. There's literally like usually a club for anything and everything out there. And you could even start a club yourself. So there are wonderful opportunities to, create and build that community. In terms of kind of like the tips for success, and I'll try and get through these pretty quickly. Going back to, again, those kind of guiding principles, the students that are usually the most successful are those who are planning ahead when it comes to traveling, when it comes to, knowing, their academic deadlines. They're using reliable resources, like I mentioned, Purdue OWL. They're talking to their professors often. They're consulting their international student advisors to make sure that they have the, accurate and correct information. And of course, asking questions along the way all the time. Questions are really important. Something that I think is really important when it comes to planning ahead is that once you actually, get into the rhythm of college, you'll realize that your time is so valuable and that you're not going to have the time to do all of the things and be on top of everything all of the time. And so I would say before, you travel across the world, honestly, just go on your phone, or if you like, having a physical calendar, and just start putting dates down, important dates like, when is the first day of classes? When are your exams taking place? Are there certain deadlines that you need to meet when it comes to like paying tuition or paying housing? It's really important to meet those. The reason being is because oftentimes if you miss those deadlines, there's an additional fee that you'll have to pay. So I would say just put that on your calendar ahead of time so that you don't forget it later on. In addition to that, thinking about personal travel plans in advance. Are you going to go home during the holiday season or maybe later in the year? Flight tickets can be really, really expensive if you wait too long. So it's important that you think about, hey, can I purchase these tickets in advance? That, making sure that it lines up so that it's not during your exams and that, you're able to come back by the time classes start again is really important. Similarly, I cannot, this is so underestimated, but scheduling time to actually reconnect and talk with your family and friends, especially when it comes to different time zones, or if your friends are going to university elsewhere across the US, again, you'll be very, very busy. And so it's really important to build in and schedule in that time to maintain those connections and to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, your mental health and your emotional health. And kind of within the context of it itself, oh, I'm so sorry. I see here. Sorry, I just noticed that there was like something in the chat, and I wanted to make sure that that wasn't for me. When it comes to kind of putting those principles, those practices into context, when it comes to kind of the educational side or the academic side of things, I would say to kind of preview your week. You know, what kind of readings are you going to have to do? What kind of assignments are going to be due, so that you can make sure you can budget your time accordingly. If you need to make sure that you're managing your finances similarly, you know, are you building enough time to maybe prep some meals in advance so you can take it to class, or so that you're not, you know, buying food on campus? That's another way to save money. In addition to that, like I said, building those relationships and regularly meeting with your professors, or maybe if you have TAs in the class, those can be really, really great resources to you, and honestly can really impact the kind of memories, the kind of experience you have there. Some of my fondest memories from undergrad is some of the wonderful, wonderful teaching assistants that I had that were genuinely very, very passionate about the subject area and working with students like myself. And similarly, engaging with the campus resources that are available to you. It is surprising the number of resources that are out there to support students in every kind of way. When it comes to housing, when it comes to mental health, maybe there's some kind of clinic on campus that offers free or very low cost healthcare services. Definitely look into those, because obviously they can be very expensive if you kind of go to other third-party companies. So I would say to try and be as informed as possible, especially in those first few weeks when usually there's a lot of outreach. There's a lot of, hey, engage with us, come to our events, come to our, learn about our programs. I would say to definitely, you know, either save those emails or just make sure that you do reference them later so that you're aware of them. Similarly, on kind of the more personal side of things, create a routine for yourself. That's really important, especially if you're living by yourself, or maybe, you know, just away from home for the first time. Finding the time to cook and clean and find time to study. It seems it seems easier, you know, before you do it, but once you're actually living that, it's really hard to kind of schedule that time. So, you know, usually thinking, you know, hey, is there a day dedicated to doing laundry? Hey, what is the best time of day, or when do I have the free time to actually, you know, do the dishes, and actually, you know, connect with friends. In addition to that, like I said, you can, you know, reach out to your classmates. You can start your own study group. You can join student organizations. You know, when you're thinking back on your experience, you know, I know it's thinking far, far ahead, but when you reflect back on your experience going to university, usually you're not just thinking about, you know, the courses that you took, but it's oftentimes, you know, the wonderful friends that you made along the way. And so it's really important that you're investing a lot of time and effort into creating those relationships. And I would also say to just honestly just take care of yourself and find what works best for you. The most successful students are those who are able to kind of balance the academic side and the personal side. It's really, really hard to do. And those are the kinds of skills that you have to develop over those 4 years at the university. You know, while it's really important that, you know, you're studying hard and that you're doing well and that you're, you know, really happy with how you're doing academically, you also need to be well rested and hydrated and well fed in order to be able to do well in your classes. So it's really important that, you know, that you're, you know, learning and that you're, you know, doing your part, but that you're also taking care of yourself, because that's what is most important. And also, I just want to make sure that I'm leaving enough time for questions here. What kind of questions do we have? I'm happy to answer those through like the chat, or if they can be relayed through, you know, the moderator, whatever is easiest for everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. That is a very amazing presentation. I saw one of many of our participants today are taking screenshots or taking pictures of your materials, because it's so amazing. Thank you so much. Maybe before we continue to our Q&A session, I want to say hi to EducationUSA Medan joining us online at UMSU. Hello, good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a good time. And so, yes, hello, everyone. So crowded as well there. Okay, so maybe our participants here have any questions. I saw one questions over here. Please stand up and state your name.
Di
Thank you.
Medan ada pertanyaan?
Okay. Thank you for the time. Should I speak in English? Of course. Okay. Okay. I have two questions here. Yeah. Based on your presentations, you mentioned that the first time for all the presentations, say that ask yourself, have you submitted your final transcript and test scores? This is my question is, if we want to study to USA, so what we should prepare for the test score, the minimum scores for the IELTS or and the SAT. Okay, that's my first question. And the second one is, you see, this is the University of Washington. It is located in Seattle. And there's another university like Berkeley or Illinois, yeah, which is different area. The question is, there is any difference first living cost, and the second thing is about the scores. Is it any differences? I mean, like, okay, if you want to go to study to Seattle, the scores will be higher than Illinois or California, just like that. Okay, there are two my questions. Thank you. Oh yeah, my name is Rika. Anyway.
Thank you,
Nice
Rika.
to
Wonderful
meet
questions.
you.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'm super happy to talk about that, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to that previous slide that you were referring to, where we're kind of asking those questions. Those are, mostly questions to kind of get students to think about, hey, did I do all of those necessary steps that the university is requiring me to do? Because usually, once a student is offered admission and they kind of get into the kind of orientation phase or kind of the, okay, now you're an incoming student, here's the kind of the checklist that you need to complete. Oftentimes, and this is dependent completely on the institution and the university you're attending, they might need you to submit your final transcripts. Maybe there's, test scores that you also need to submit. Again, it really depends on the university. Like, for example, for the University of Washington, when students are coming in, we need them to send their final transcripts. If they've done AP or IB courses, they have to send those test scores over so that we can award credit for them. And, we send out those emails kind of reminding students like, hey, you need to remember to send those to us. So that we can make sure that we're reviewing your academic record, and because we don't want to place an academic like a registration hold on their account. And so depending on the institution you might be going to, I would say it doesn't hurt to reach out to the admissions office and be like, hey, is there any other additional documents that I need to send you? It's better to ask sooner rather than later, because, oftentimes students reach out once there's a hold that was placed on the account. And that kind of prevents them from registering for classes. So this slide is more about just, hey, depending on the institution you're going to, there's usually certain kinds of tasks, kind of loose ends that you need to tie up before you can just step onto campus and start classes. When it comes to, I believe, the second question, and I know you talking about, I think you mentioned Berkeley and maybe a university in Illinois. It really is up to the institution. Because, like, for example, students and parents might ask, is this how U.S. or American universities do it? But really, every institution is extremely, extremely different, and that's just up to the institutional policies that are in place. So I think the kind of bigger distinction to make is usually, difference between public institutions versus private institutions. And, those policies can also change over time. Like, for example, the University of Washington used to require SAT and ACT scores, but now we are test optional. So we do not require students to submit those to us. So it really is up to the specific institution that you are attending in the fall. So again, reach out to the Office of Admissions to make sure that you're sending in all of the necessary documentation and that you're completing all of those necessary steps.
Great. So it very depends on the institution you're applying, so you can find more information right away to the institutions. Or maybe book an appointment with EducationUSA advisors. Okay, any other questions over there? Please state your name.
Hi,
And please grab the snack.
thank you for this opportunity.
Actually, I have like two questions here. The first question is about the culture. We are Indonesian, actually. We are international student there. So it's really hard for us. There's like some difference, especially for the cultures. So how we can actually be able to adapt with that? Because, because of the difference, sometimes it's really hard for us to, to adjust with a new certain situation. So my first question is kind of like how we can adapt with that easily. That's my first question. And for my second question would be like, in order to prepare ourselves for getting a better job after graduation, so how we can actually prepare ourselves to get like to seek to prepare ourselves to seek like a better job after graduation. Maybe to prepare for our LinkedIn or something like that. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's
Thank you.
my question.
And your name is?
Ritsa, sorry. Ritsa.
Risa.
Ritsa.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank
Those
you.
are wonderful questions. We got that questions a lot as well. So yeah, Sarah,
Yeah.
how was it?
Yeah. That first question that you asked is so important. And I think, first of all, like, I think you guys should be really proud of yourself that you're challenging yourself and putting yourself in this new environment that's completely, culturally, linguistically different. And that it's going to be an environment that challenges you to grow and to adapt. I think that, when you're faced with, those cultural differences, I think it's really important to give yourself patience and give yourself grace. There's going to be potentially mistakes along the way. Maybe you said something or did something that you think back on. You're like, oh, why did I do that? That was so silly. But be very forgiving to yourself, and I would also say maybe be forgiving to the peers as well. Depending on the institution that you're going to, you might come in contact with students who have never met an international student before and maybe have always lived in a bubble where they haven't really interacted with people from other cultures and other people with different language backgrounds. And so I would say to inspire that curiosity, be curious and, asking questions to other, maybe American students and, engage in those kinds of cross-cultural dialogues. And you'll usually find that they usually have questions for you. In terms of like maybe emotional support, because, it can be hard going through those things, your international student advisor, or if you have some kind of center on campus that focuses on like mental health support or other kind of healthcare services, it's really wonderful to engage in those because they usually have confidential advocates. Confidential advocates are usually certain figures at the university who you can speak to and know that your privacy is protected. Where, if you're just like frustrated about something, you can air that to them and tell them, I'm having a really hard time doing this thing. Um, Similarly, or if you've maybe if you're living on campus with an American student and you're coming across a lot of cultural differences, communication style differences, talk to your RA or like your residential advisor. Usually they can provide some guidance and some support there. So I would say like all of those things all together, I think would help you kind of navigate those situations. Be curious, be kind. I'm sure that if you're very sensitive and very open to others, ideally those people reciprocate that behavior to you. For the second question about kind of career readiness, um, there's kind of multiple things to think about. I would say the first thing that kind of comes to mind for me, because I come from more of an immigration background, is to talk to International Student Services, go to their website and learn about the kinds of work authorizations that you can have as an F1 international student. There's something called, curricular practical training, optional practical training. And so, being informed about, the kinds of regulations that you will follow, on your visa. In addition to that, there's usually some kind of career internship center at your university. These are usually advisors who can like look over resumes for you. They can do practice interviews with you. So you can kind of get used to having like maybe American style interviews. I would also say use them as resources or online resources to learn about how to write kind of American style resumes and cover letters, and kind of learn about certain practices like, shaking hands, making eye contact, learning about the kinds of questions that you'll come across that are very common in kind of basic interviews. When it comes to finding specific job opportunities, sometimes there's career fairs or internship fairs that you can attend on campus. There's also, online, usually like things like Handshake, which is like an online portal where you can find, jobs on campus, for example. So there's also like online tools. And then I would say, aside from those events or those online portals, university is also kind of an opportunity to network, right? You would be really, really surprised the kind of friendships and connections that you make, and then they say, "Oh, hey, my friend's hiring. Oh, yeah, my friend who works at this company said that there's an opening for this." And so another great reason why you should kind of keep those lines of communication open with professors, teaching assistants, and with classmates who are maybe similar academic career interests, because they might know about opportunities that you could apply for.
Okay, so basically you can also use resources provided by the campus about this to adapting in the US, and also about the career path after finishing their study. Okay, one last question. Anyone from that side, probably? If not, maybe one last question comes from me. Sarah, recommend us one American experience our students should experience, or American culture that they should experience.
Ooh, one American kind of experience. That's a good question. I think, super great question. I'm not sure if it's like I'm trying to think if this is kind of what you're asking for, but I think that's really interesting to kind of learn about maybe like the local or kind of like common cuisine to that area, right? Because the United States is quite large and different regions specialize in different kinds of food, right? Like for example, in the Pacific Northwest, we're known for like seafood. And so when people come here, they want to know about like the salmon that we have. In the South, they have a lot of very like a lot of fried foods. And so that's very different. And, kind of think what other kind of, for example, Maine, also known for seafood because it's also, up on the East Coast up there. And so I would say that students should definitely be adventurous, try the local cuisine, and, that's kind of a fun, I guess, kind of American experience. Otherwise, what else would be very good?
Traveling.
Depending on where you go to school as well, there might be other kind of local events, right? I think that's something that's considered very American. I guess are like state or like local fairs, things where they have like roller coasters and games where you can win toys, or there's like Ferris wheels and things like that. I think that it's very maybe an American experience. And so depending where you go to school, you might also be able to go to those kinds of events as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. That's a wonderful presentation. Please give one more applause for Sarah. And thank you for
everyone.
joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So next we will talk more with our alumni, wonderful alumni. So I will give it back to Farah.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Kak Medinar Latupono, as one of the Education USA advisors in Indonesia, and also to our speaker who joined us today via online platform, which is Sarah Dawson from International Admission Counselor, University of Washington. And ladies and gentlemen, now let's proceed to the next session of our talk show for today. That will be led by Kak Edward Sutanto as Fulbright alumni from Johns Hopkins University. And everyone, please welcome Kak Edward.
A really special guest today. We have Ibu Chris.
Hi, everyone. So I'll be moderating the next 45-minute session on adapting and finding your way in United States. We have two great speakers with our on this session. The first is Okay, I need to make sure I get their CV correctly. The first one is Mr. Saldi Yusuf. He holds a Master of Science in Nursing Informatics in University of Utah 2021. He went to US using the LPDP scholarship, and he currently works as a digital health and nursing informatics expert. The second great speaker that we'll have is Mr. Gema Otheliansyah, and he'll be attending here online, as you can see. So Mr. Gema is a current Fulbright awardee studying for a graduate degree in public administration at the University of Delaware, and he earned his diploma in accounting and polytechnic, Koan and Negarastan. Okay. So before we open for discussions and a Q&A session, I do want to give the floor to both speakers to properly further introduce themselves and have some early thoughts in terms of this topic, adapting and finding your way in United States, probably like in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So Mr. Saldi, the floor is yours.
Check. Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. So first, I would like to congratulate all of you who are already accepted to the U.S. institution. Applause for all of you. And also for those who are in preparing the academic journey or preparing even the application to the U.S. institution. So I think 5 years ago, I was here at America, participating in the same event, and currently I'm here as a speaker, and I would like to hats off to Mas Iqbal, EducationUSA, for helping me throughout the process of applying to the U.S. institution. So I think I would like to start like 3 or 5 minutes. I will divide into 3 main parts. First, study. Second, social. Third is personal. If you have already watched one video from Harvard student, they said if you want to study abroad, there are 3 triangles that you will need to balance. 3S. First, study. Second, social. 3, sleep. And some people can only balance between 2, whether it's sleep and study, sleep and social, or social or sleep. And they forgot about the study. So this is something that I would like to remind you. What's your intention? What's your reasons? What's your purpose going to the U.S. institution? Because one hint, maybe this is biased, like Pak Jason mentioned, but I believe studying in the U.S. and you are later on being graduate of U.S. institution, it's like a currency. It's different from other countries, I believe. Because I experienced myself, like if you are graduated from U.S. university or from the state, it's another level of institution because it's really challenging to get into that university, and also if you pay yourself, it's very expensive and so on. Yeah. So first, study. I believe Sarah already covered some of the information, like very important information. Just want to complement some of that. For example, studying in the US is a very project-based. I asked to all of the US alumni or students, it's like the same thing. Every institution has the same approach, which is the project-based. So make sure that you prepare with the new systems, which is the project-based approach of your education. Second, maybe for those who are going to master degree, please be close with your supervisor. I experienced myself, like my supervisor said, "Hey, Saldi, don't focus a lot with the research. You are in a master degree. The point is you need to equip yourself with the skills." And later on, when I get back to Indonesia said, "Oh, this is the time for digital health." And my supervisor already said that. So please make sure that you connect closely with your supervisor. Second, social. I believe social life, Sarah already covers some of that, and maybe Mas Gema later on. Please mention about social. And the third is the personal. I think personal, maybe for those who are Muslims, like me, please ask questions and we can share to each other. And also Permias, because I was the president of Permias Utah back then. So I can share many things, even because I have many members in that Permias, and I have many undergraduate students at the time, and even they call me Coco because I try to be more close with them, try to attach to each other and support each other. Yeah, yeah. I think that's all for the opening. I think we can go deeper with the question and answer session.
Thank you for the insight, Mr. Saldi. I'll open the floors to you too, Mr. Gema. Provide some intro and some early thoughts in terms of adapting and finding your way in the United States.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Edward, and also thank you. Good morning, everyone. But I'm right now in the Arizona, same time with Miss Sarah. We are in the West time, and today, right now is like on 9 p.m., maybe 9:30 p.m. So it's night. It's in the night, and I would like to introduce myself. My name is Gema Otheliansyah. I'm a Fulbright awardee, and I have been accepted in University of Delaware, which taking Master of Public Administration. And right now, I've been assigned by Fulbright to take a long-term English course since March until July. So right now, I just like study English to improve my English proficiency and also to help me socialize and also adapt it with the U.S. Environment. And uh, the the good thing that the good reason that why I want to choose to study in U.S. because in US we call US is like the land of opportunities. So many people come here, especially many smart people, and you will surround it with many smart people, and then uh, based on my experience, like I am a government officer in Indonesia, and I think the governmental system in Indonesia is have a similar governmental system. So that's why I choose America to influence to improve my knowledge, especially in policy making process. And I think that's all for my shortly introduction. Maybe we will talk later in the discussion. I give it back to Mr. Edward.
Sure, thank you. So first question to start off our discussion, can you share a specific challenges that you face in United States in terms of adapting to the life there, and how do you overcome it? Both Mr. Saldi and Mr. Gema, you can answer this.
Maybe I can talk first because I have been married, so I have a family, and I have two daughters. And the biggest challenge that I face right now is I live far away from my family, especially my two daughters. So that's why a big challenge is for me. And but we can like use video call to like to connect or communicate with each other. So I think the barrier or the boundaries can be solved. And I think the next challenging thing that I face, especially right now in Arizona, you know that this is I think the hottest place in US, maybe the hottest place is America, because in the summer it can be like more than 110 degrees of Fahrenheit, so it's very hot. And if you have to choose Arizona as your upcoming university, you will like face like very hot temperature, something like that. But fortunately, I will go to the University of Delaware, which is like from the state. So I think it will be milder or will be not very hot like in Arizona.
Okay.
I think that's my answer.
Okay. Mr. Saldi?
All right. I just want to add more a little bit. So first, homesickness, yes, of course. I don't want to explain more about that. Second, of course, food. For me personally, food, because I don't know, just my taste is very Indonesian, very Indonesian, and but thank God there's some Asian market, even in Walmart. There's Asian food corners, so you don't have to worry about that. But personally, my weight decreased a lot during my study in the U.S. because I just feel like I need to eat more Indonesian food. But I don't know, in Salt Lake City, not many restaurants, Indonesian restaurants. So I need to cook by myself. But it's okay. You have Asian markets anywhere. Yeah.
Thank you. So in terms of the challenges you guys mentioned about temperature, like the weather, obviously for Arizona it's hot, but if you're going up north, Boston is also very cold. So make sure you guys pack some proper attire. Also, as Mr. Sari mentioned, in terms of food, there's a lot of Asian market to place in cities. So that's something that we can always go to find more, Asians, Indomie, sambal, and other stuff too. So the second question that I wanted to ask you in terms of, as you guys also talk about homesickness, is on just a general culture. What do you think is the biggest difference between the Indonesian culture and the U.S. culture? And sort of how do you then overcome these differences? Mr. Sir, you want to go first?
Well, I think the biggest difference in terms of culture is American people or like study abroad is more direct. People are more direct, telling you something. For example, if you have uh, something in your body, or they just want to admire you, like, oh, I like your shoes, I like your style today, I like the color. But Indonesian people like, yeah, more and indirect. So I think that becomes. But when I get back to Indonesia, I feel like those direct approach of telling people, I think it's very a benefit in my side, because I can show my ideas, I can show my interests without any hesitation. So that part developed my personal culture as well. I think that's all.
Mr. Gema, do you want to add further?
Yes, I have the same opinion with Mr. Saldi that I like my professor or teacher in Arizona really helpful, and also they give a compliment when we do a good thing directly, and it is like improve our confidence and also improve our, like, we can do the tasks in our class. And also because there are many smart people from other countries, like it will like encourage you to be a better person in each day. So that's why I think the environment in US really help you to be a better person.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. So as Mas Arji and Mas Gema mentioned, it is quite different in terms of the directness in US. You'll pass on the street and then some stranger will like, oh, I really like your dress. I really like your shirt. They compliment you, and that's quite a common occurrence. I do want to then go on further in terms of resources. So as international student, could you expand further? What kind of resources are there for you to help your journey in terms of adapting or in terms of pursuing a master or even PhD degree in US? What resources do you use? How do you find those resources?
Yeah. Um, I would start with the writing center or language center because international students like us, uh, some of us still language is a barrier, especially for the writing. Uh, Doing academic writing is a very challenging thing, and then some of the terms are not very familiar for us who are not native. That's why writing center, language center is very essential, and don't hesitate to visit and set an appointment and as many time as you want because they don't limit you how many times you want to make an appointment with them and even when I submit abstract or a paper to a conference uh, like almost every day we conduct the correspondence and help develop the right paper and submit it to the conference. Even in my department, for example, they have a special allocation like a fund for the students, like me, for example, for master or PhD students, called Early Career Development Scholarship. So you will get like additional besides my LPDP scholarship support for the conference. You will also get from the university because some of the departments has that have that funding for you. Yeah. Over.
Mr. Gema, how about your experience in terms of finding resources that helped you adapt and pursue your master's?
I have also same experience with Mr. Saldi. Beside the Fulbright scholarship, I got also additional scholarship from my university, University of Delaware, and it is really helped me to pursue my study at that university. And also, I think the University of Delaware will offer me like several chance or opportunity later, in especially in the summer. They will like give us for international students to join a fellowship or also like especially in my field, like I am in public administration, I have a chance to join legislative fellowship. So later I will work together with the senator in that state, in the Delaware state. So I will learn many things about how to make a regulation, how to make a policy later, which is very beneficial in my future career. And uh, and also the officer in the University of Delaware really helped me a lot because she like explained what the course that I really need at the first semester. So I will be focused on my study and will help me to get the higher grade or maybe to make me study well later.
Thank you. So
And
it's oh,
don't
so
no no I want to add one thing. Don't be shy or don't be afraid to ask if you don't understand about anything. Just ask, and they really will help you. And even like a silly question, they will answer it. So be brave to ask.
thank you. That's a very important advice. So, never afraid to ask a question, both in terms of in the classes, but also in life, in terms of adjusting your life there in US. As Mr. Sadi and Mr. Gema also pointed out, there's a lot of resources in US that you can access, both in terms of more like financial stuff. If you, during the during the summer term, have a specific conferences, there are usually travel grants because most of US universities are quite well resources, so they're able to pay you or subsidize you. That's one of examples, but as Mr. Sardi further mentioned too, there's a lot of writing resources that can help you, mental health counselor that the previous session also talked about. Now, sort of pivoting from resources from the universities, how about resources more like network or support from your peers for Indonesian students? Can you also talk about how you find networks or how you find the student life both in the U.S. Internally within the campus and outside of the campus too? Mr. Saldi and Mr. Gema, do you want to go first, Mr. Gema?
Uh, Actually, I am the only master student in University of Delaware from Indonesia. So like it's quite the challenge for me because you don't have any Indonesian people that will help you at the first time you come. But fortunately, because Delaware near Philadelphia, so it's near the University of Pennsylvania and also Penn State University. I communicate with the Permias, Pennsylvania, and yeah, they will welcome you and will help you. So I think it's not a big challenge because you will find other people from Indonesia, and also because in my case, like uh, because the Delaware State near like Washington D.C. too, because in Washington D.C. there are many Indonesian people, so it's easy for me to find the Indonesian community. But yeah, like Mr. Saldi said before, that there are you can enrich, you can also communicate with Permias. There are many Instagram account of Permias, so it's really easy to connect with Indonesian community.
Yeah.
Mr. Saldi.
I would like to ask and divide that into two. First, with the locals or with the other international students, and with the Indonesian students. With the locals, I think ensure that you attend the get together or orientation, because some of the orientation are not formal. It's maybe the professor will take you out to the forest or to the mountain or to the camp area. Please, I suggest you to join that orientation or get together events, and also ensure that maybe because some of the participants here are preparing for the undergraduate study, I suggest that if you can live on campus, I think that's the most suitable one for you at the first time, because you just graduate from the high school, right? And you need more friends. You need to get together each other. I think living on campus will help you a lot because they have many resources and many activities. It's different from the master students or PhD, because majority of us are self or independent learning style. So you need to read yourself and then go to the library by yourself. But for the undergraduate study, please, and get together and reach out to your peers, undergraduate peers, because you will need this type of environment. Second, for the in terms of meeting with the Indonesian students, I think Permias will be the best options for you. But you don't have, if you in your area doesn't have Permias, please reach out to the greater Permias area, or you can contact Permias Nasional, and they can connect you with the right persons. And then second, after school or after class, of course, you will have many other Indonesian, but Mas Gema, you can also reach out to undergraduate student, because some of I'm the only one master student at the time as well at the University of Utah, but I have another friends who are master at the State University of Utah, another university, but almost 20 or maybe 30 students are undergraduate. So that's why I told you in the first presentation, they call me Coco. Look at me, how they call me Coco, because just we are so close together each other, and we prepare the events. For example, we prepare the Independence Day with the Indonesian community, lunch together or something else. Yeah, I think that's all.
So there's a lot of support too coming from the Indonesian community to make sure that the Indonesian student there are successful. If you guys are near, for example, or New York or Washington D.C. especially, because we have an Indonesian embassy there, they'll throw the routine event. So 17 Agustus, our Independence Day will be like massive Indonesian affair, for example. Then you can get siomay, pempek, sate, whatever food that you miss, for example. But that's just like one example to show you that there's still a lot of Indonesian food or culture and the support system that you can also access while you're in the US too. Speaking of in terms of social activities with Permia student, how do you balance, Mas Saldi and Mas Gema, how do you try to balance between academic life and your social life too? I guess this is also touch upon the triangle thing that you mentioned too, Mas Saldi, like you're still a student, but at the same time, it's also important for you to expand your network, both like to the Indonesian student, but also externally. Then how do you want to balance those two? Do you have any tips at all, Mr. Gema and Mr. Staldi?
Yeah, I think I would say it depends on the persons, because some of the person are introverted. So sometimes when it in the afternoon the social battery it's going down, and then they don't have any times to get socialized. But in terms of balancing things, I think we need to connect with each other. Yeah, of course, with creating a group to share. Even they can share you best food in town, or even sell best value or things. Yeah, they can share you some of the equipments or books that you will need, because some of them are your seniors or other subjects. Because studying in the US, you can choose subjects freely, independently based on your needs. So that's why it's easy to share books, materials to each other, and yeah, in that way you can get socialized with them.
Okay, based on my experience, because my course, most of my course will take in the evening time. So in in the morning, I will have a spare time to do many things. So I will use it to create a balanced life in my study letter. And I think like we can, yeah, in my spare time, I will like do exercise or maybe go to the library. And also in my university, there are many like clubs that you can join. For example, like Muslim Student Association, or maybe like because I because I will take like a public administration, or it will I will take I will join a club that called Democrat Club, because Delaware is a state from that occupied by Democrat Party, so they have many association with Democrat Party. But I don't want to get in the political area, but I just want to learn how the party create a make organization or something like public policy thing. So it is very interesting too, because you will meet many people. And also, yeah, you can join many club. And also, if you have any spare time, you can also go to other states if you have any money. And just enjoy the study in US. And for example, in Arizona, I I have come to uh, several places in Phoenix and Phoenix County, and also like many other places. And I think it's good.
Okay, thank you for the tips. So two last questions, and this talks about academic life. The previous session also expanded a bit about how, in terms of classroom setting, it's quite different. Students are expected to participate, ask question, approach the professor. How do you, Mr. Saldi and Mr. Gema, go about building relationship with the professors, because they are the expert in the field? They're the one who can provide you connection to for future jobs if you are interested in a specific topic. So how do you go about interacting with the professor when you're in the United States? Mr. Gema or Mr. Sadi, you want to go first?
Okay. Okay. I think in terms of having a good relation with the professors, uh, every professors has their own projects. Make sure to involve, yeah, to get yourself involved in the project, because I experienced myself starting from entering the first semesters in the fall 2019 at the time. I directly joined the project of my professors. So that's why I have 2 years in the hospitals doing the project. So besides doing my master coursework every day, class by class, I also went to the hospitals conducting my project with my professor. So I think there are many research. Even I have my own room. My professor give me a room or cubicles to sit in every day, like my office, to do my job, to write the paper or conduct coding things like that. But for the bachelor degree, I think, or for the undergraduate students, I think uh, the most options you have is like joining the, I mean, the club probably, yeah, or a study club, yeah, study club. Yeah, I think that's also an option for you. Yeah, that's all for me.
Mr. Gema?
In my experience and also in my opinion, to build a good connection with your professor, you can approach them like they will help you. They are really helpful. For example, in my experience in learning English in University of Arizona, most of my professor have a different way of teaching. But when you, if you have any question and you brave to ask, and because you don't understand it, they will like don't say like they will not like you are why you don't understand this. Uh, they will give you like many uh, answer and also direct you to understand the course. And I think, I don't know, in my in University of Arizona, all the professors are really good and really nice. But I hope so in my next university, University of Delaware, I will have a good connection too with my professors. So I cannot talk many things about how to connect with professor because I don't have any experience yet.
Yeah. So thank you for that. So the professor there are very open to welcoming to international students. You do need to find them early, find a project that you want to join, and then just be active to approach them. I do want to pivot to the Q&A session right now. If you guys have any question to our panelists, feel free to ask. Raise your hand, introduce your names, and then shoot up your question.
Thank you for the explanation and presentation. My name is Muhammad Alim. I'm going to study in University of California, San Diego, pursuing my master degree. I want you to elaborate more about how to build the networking and relationship with professors. The idea to, and then you also mentioned about project-based and research-based, and I think we have to really ensure we build proper relationship with them. Because in Indonesia, based on my experience, I think everyone experienced the same thing as well. It's quite difficult, like to approach, reach our supervisor, and I think, and I'm curious, how is the culture in US? Is it also difficult for us to reach them, because some of their professors there are experts, like leading expert in their fields. So probably they have like arrogance to teach the international students to share their knowledge. Because like in my case, I already talked to my professor as well, but he mentioned to me that I probably will find difficult to have time with master student, because I barely take a master student for the past like 15 years. I prefer to work with doctoral students and solve things. So I think, how do you can ensure we can work with them better. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. I think this is especially for Mr. Saldi. You want to answer it?
Yeah. Congratulations, Mas, for your acceptance. So, in terms of building the or close relationship with the professor, again, yeah. If you encounter any difficulties in connect with your professors, I want to share one more resources for you. One more resource for you is the international student service centers kind of things. Yeah, because at the time I experienced the same thing at the first time because I think I need more tips and tricks how to win my professor's heart. So I asked them a lot in the international because international student advisors, they suggest us, oh, this is what you need to do. I saw her expertise in this, and also you can get one-on-one session with your professor. So if you don't have any like a background examination for your professor, like I don't know what are the current projects going on with her or with him, but you can just set an appointment with them, or even you don't have you don't have time with the full professor. Sometimes the professor has another team or like associate professors. Please take that as advantage for having making an appointment with them on online session, what you need, telling what are your interests, what are, and ensure that you have the foundation or you have the paper, for example, like two pages outlines of what your interest before meeting them. So don't go meet with them empty. All right, you need to prepare something before discuss with them. I think that's tips for you. Yeah.
Thank you. If I cannot add on that, so I think like generally the majority of professors in US are very welcoming to international students. They wouldn't scare you away or yeah. But for those professors who's really busy, even those, I think they will do is that then they will refer to other, as Mr. Saldi said, to other associate professor or their other colleagues that are still working in that topic that are less busy than them. That's another resources that you can use too. Yeah. I'm open for another questions. We still have around 10 minutes for the Q&A session. Yep. Don't forget to state your name and then ask your questions.
Okay, hi. My name is Emilia. I am one of the mother of the ISMA awardee student for University of Pennsylvania. My question is, based on your experience, do you feel that it is beneficial, like this ISMA awardee, we can say it like exchange student for one semester, when they would like to pursue to their master degree, pursuing also scholarship, do you think that it is beneficial that now in their bachelor's degree process and they get this scholarship? So what beneficial do you think that they will get through this experience in order to pursue the next level of education, for getting also scholarship like Fulbright or LPDP and so many other scholarship based on your personal experience? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Mr. Gema, do you want to answer for this one first?
In my opinion, I think it is very beneficial, ebook, because it will enrich the curriculum vitae of your son or your daughter, and because also like my scholarship of Fulbright, they search like awardee that has many many achievement and also many like the that the achievement itself can make him or her different with another awardee, so that if your son or your daughter accepted to be an ISMA awardee, it will like enrich the curriculum vitae of your son or your daughter, and it will be beneficial.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Gema. I think in addition to that, there will be less culture shock too if they already spent 6 months there in US. So next time they are doing their master in US, the process to get the adaptation will be much faster for him or her too, for the son. So I agree. I think it's will be very beneficial too. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. We have around 6 minutes, so 2 or 3 more questions.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Sarah, and I'm currently looking for opportunities for PhD because I have just finished my master, and it was also master by research, so I have a kind of like research experience. But when I'm trying to find a professor in the US, I was a little bit confused about how to effectively find a professor that have research grants or something like that. Is there any like tips and trick for looking for new advisor for us that has research grant, especially because I think I'm going to mm, continue my study with research grant uh, funding. Is there any recommendations or tips for that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Mr. Saldi or Mr. Gema, do you have any response to this?
Yeah, okay. Please, Mas Gema later on add. Mbak Sarah, tips and trick to find a professor who has funding or projects. Last time I did my own research, creating a matrix, name of the professors, what projects are going on, and then how long the projects will be. Is it suitable with my time during my time in the US? So I try to rank the professors that I want to work with. That's the first thing. Second, university always have directories, faculty directories, when you can find anything about that professors. And third, besides the directories, you can search by your own. Open the PubMed or open the Google Scholars or Scopus, find the professors, see the research. You can see the pattern of the research. If the research, for example, this thing working on primary care and then going deeper to specific diseases, if it's related to health, the more deeper, the deeper the research is, the more chance of the professor has have funding about that. Last thing is about the full professor. If it's full professors, I believe they will get many funding. But if it's still under associate professor or assistant professor, I think it's still limited, and they need to help you find out the other professors. Yeah.
Mr. Gema, do you want to add anything further?
Actually, I don't have any experience in PhD degree, but I have friends that also have graduated from University of Arizona. They are, she got a grant from the university to continue her study in University of Arizona, and he also worked as the research assistant in this university. So I think that are many opportunity of grant that Mbak Sarah can find if you look forward on the website, or also you can like you can ask the student that of the university that you want to go. I think that's the answer for that question.
Yeah, thank you for Mr. Gema. 2 additional tips if I can add. The first one, it's never wrong to do cold emails. If there's professor, there's no harm at all sending them an email. The worst thing they can do is they don't reply to you, and that's fine. The second one, there's also perhaps a scheme of getting the research funding here from Indonesia, and that's something that then you can sell toward the professor overseas. So it's not necessarily the research grant coming from the professor in the US, but you already have a research grant. You're just finding the supervisor over there. So that's a possibility to do, Mbak Sarah. Yeah, so yeah, good luck with your PhD search. We have around 130 minutes left. So one last question for this session. Is there any? Okay. Yeah, there is? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, hello. My name is Mr. Januar. I'm an incoming student at Boston University School of Theology, and my concentration is religion, climate change, and sexuality, especially in the LGBT community. And I'm concerned about racism issue in United States. Have you ever experienced the Asian hate and racism in United States, and how you deal with that? And the second one, talking about the politics in the United States, is there any impacts of impacts to international students regarding to politics in the United States? Thank you so much.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Saldi, and we'll open to Mr. Gema too.
Yeah. Me myself never experienced any Asian hate or even Islamophobia during my time, because I think in the campus environment or university environment, it's very safe, and even they have many resources to help you. They have like a crisis center, and when you can directly tell them that I experienced this, blah, 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 or something. And it's different when it's outside of the campus. Probably it depends on how we behave, first, and then second, if you don't do anything wrong, and you still get the bad action from other people, probably you will. I mean, I never experienced that, so that's why I don't have. And my friends also uh, don't have any experience about Asian hate or something. But we just stay to follow because when we join the orientation, some of the advisors told us that you need to do this and avoid this area or something, and don't if the latest or night hour, you can go back home like 10 or 11. And also you have even like social media, they we have orientation especially on social media. For example, please don't post anything during your time in that place. Post it after you already in your home. I think that's very interesting, because if we do that, it ensure our safety. So I think that's maybe some experience I had. Yeah.
Mr. Gema, do you want to add?
I actually don't have any experience with Asian hate or racism in my class, because actually in my class there are many Latinas or from Central America, but they are very friendly and they really respect our, like me, my religion, Islam. So they really respect when I fast in the Ramadan, and also they give congratulations on the Eid, and I think they were very welcome. And also if and another tips for me, if you behave well in the class, they will also respect you. And also that don't like join any action, like maybe that can make you in a dangerous situation, like like Mr. Saldi said, don't post something that racist or anything. If you just uh, behave well, I think you will be safe in America. But uh, in the outside campus, there are so many strangers and homeless, and sometimes you will be feel frightened. But my tips is don't stare at them because you know that the strangers have many problems in their daily life. So sometimes they will like angry for something that we don't know what happened. But yeah, don't stare at them and don't see them. Just do your activities.
Yeah. Thank you for the tips. So as Mr. Salin and Mr. Gema mentioned, generally the campus is a bubble in a way that it's very safe communities, it's very nurturing communities. Once you go outside though, I think this is a general tips and this applies everywhere, even in the bigger cities, even in Jakarta. You want to stay vigilant, you want to stay smart, right? Don't go outside during the night with your phones and just walking alone, etc., etc. There is a second question in terms of how the larger politics might influence the Indonesian student or the student. I think we'll just wait to see because the election is about to be underway. So, yeah. That's the end of the Q&A session and this session. I want to thank you all to both our great speakers and to the audience too for tuning in. Yeah, thank you.
All right, once again, can we give a big round of applause for our speakers and moderators in this session? Thank you to Kak Edward Sutanto as Fulbright alumni from Johns Hopkins University, as well as our speaker, Kak Gema, as Fulbright awardee in University of Delaware, and Kak Saldi Yusuf as LPDP alumni in University of Utah. And ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on to our very last session for today's pre-departure orientation. And to begin the last session for today, I would like to invite our moderator. She is EducationUSA Indonesia Advisors. Everyone, please welcome Kak Caroline Darmanto.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming, and anyone who is watching online, thank you for tuning in up until the very last session. So we've heard about the the culture and how to adapt to it, and the perspective from the U.S. universities and the alumni as well. But before you go to the U.S., there's one document that you really need. Can anyone tell me what it is? Visa, correct. So right now we're gonna hear it from the U.S. Embassy about how to get your visa, what are the documents needed for you to prepare, and what are the things that you need to consider or you need to pay attention to when you're applying for your visa. So without further ado, please help me welcome Cassia Waligora from the U.S. Embassy.
Hello, everyone. Selamat siang semua. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to the panelists who have already spoken today. Can you all hear me all right? Okay. So again, selamat siang. My name is Cassia Waligora, and I'm a vice consul at the U.S. Embassy here in Jakarta. I've only been here a couple months. I got here in April, so I'm still very new. So don't ask me hard questions, please. But yeah, today, so I don't know how many of you, if you've already been accepted to your universities for either master's or undergraduate programs. A little bit about me, I actually grew up in Asia. I grew up in China because my parents were English teachers there. I'm Korean American, but I went to undergrad, my bachelor's at a school in Illinois near Chicago, and then I went right into my master's degree at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. So if you have any specific questions too about bachelor's programs or master's programs and living in DC or other places in America, I can also try to answer that. But yeah, I'm just excited to talk to you guys today about applying for your student visa, and hopefully I can answer questions that you guys might have afterwards. So the first one, why study in the United States? Well, if you're here today or tuning in, then obviously you are interested in studying in the United States. So first of all, we have diversity and flexibility. So as Mr. Jason said earlier today, we have so many schools, and we're so open and welcoming to international students. Actually, at my undergraduate school in Illinois, there were a lot of Indonesian international students, so that was really cool, just being able to hear about their experiences and just talk to them more. I was actually part of our international student program, so I got to kind of mentor to students, not just from Indonesia, but from all over the world who were there studying as international students. We also have an outstanding support system for international students. So a lot of schools have advisors and students like me or alumni who are more than willing to answer any questions you guys might have about classes or programs or just what it's like living in America if it's your first time in America. And then access to internships. So we have so many internships available for international students, and those are things you can definitely look into before you go to America, and then once you're in America at your school programs, talking to your designated school official or any advisors or other international students like the panel that we had here today who might have had similar experiences or done internships or jobs in America. So how to get a student visa. So I know this is what everyone's probably wondering. How do I get my student visa? So first, we really emphasize be a credible student. So obviously, you're here today. You want to go study in the United States, so have that reasoning. Why do you want to study? What is your passion? What do you want to major in or focus on? And be able to demonstrate that, okay? So these are some ways that you can show you're a credible student. So first is reason for choosing school or program. So make sure you do your research, you look into everything. Why do you want to go to this school specifically? What about their program or their professors or advisors you're really interested in, and be able to talk about that. This one's hard to see, but future academic and professional plans. So whether you're going for your undergrad degree or your master's degree, you want to talk about why this program specifically will help you in any of your future job careers or aspirations that you might have back here in Indonesia, or if you're looking to try to work in America or other places in the world. And then the last one is secure finances. So whether it's yourself paying for this program or a scholarship, LPDP, we have a lot of that, or a Fulbright program, be able to demonstrate that you have the funds necessary to support your education in the United States. Okay, so this is an example of a visa. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this before. I'm not going to go into it, all of the different things, but this is just kind of the overview of what it looks like. Most visas will have an M, and that means you can seek entry into the US multiple times. And the date of the visa, so that's when the expiration date is the last day you can use your visa to seek entry into the United States. So it doesn't have anything to do with how long you can stay in the United States. And that also depends on the specific programs that you're doing and how long they are. So usually normal bachelor's degree, 4 years, master's degree, 2 years, PhD, even longer. And then we have like annotations that we'll put usually with the school name, and then what you're doing there. And when you get your visa, just please be sure that everything is correct, that your name is correct, it's the right type of visa, whether it's an F visa, a J visa, a tourist visa, so that everything is good to go before you travel to America. And next, okay, so some of you might have questions about this. So what is the difference? There's a lot of letters for visas. I didn't really know any of these myself before I started working, so it's good to understand what's the difference specifically for students for F, M, and J visas. So as you can see up here, F visas, so that's when you're studying at an accredited US college or university or a private secondary school. It's an approved English language program. You have to demonstrate, that you have the English language ability to study there. You also need an I-20 form, so after you apply, you get accepted to the school, they'll give you that I-20 form. You make sure to pay your service fee, so that makes sure you're in the system of international students that are studying in the US. And then there's also a reciprocity fee for any Indonesian F visa holder, and that's $195 US that you'll pay after your F visa is approved. For M visas, these are more non-academic vocational training, study or training at a US institution. You also need an I-20 form for this that you'll get from the school. There is also a service fee to pay. And then finally, J visa. So this is designed to promote the exchange of knowledge and skills in these different fields of education, arts, and sciences. But this one is a different type of form. It's called the DS 2019. That'll be issued by your program. And then again, there is a service fee that you have to pay and show proof of that service fee when you come for your interview appointment. Okay, next, so steps to apply for a student or exchange program. So number one, to get accepted to your US school, submit all your documents for that, make sure you have all the information from that. And then you'll get your I-20 form for F visa holders or your DS 2019 J form from your school or program. Then you pay the service fee, as I mentioned, it's the fmjfee.com, so that stands for the visas. And then you prepare your visa application. So more letters, but that's a DS 160. So that's where you go online to our website where you set up a visa appointment and you prepare your application in there with all the required information that it says. And then you make your visa application fee payment on the same website. And then you can make your online visa appointment at ustraveldocs.com. And then you have the interview for your visa. So what to expect during a visa interview. So if some of you have gotten tourist visas or other visas to the US before, then you kind of have an idea of what this is like. But first, arrive at your scheduled time at the embassy or consulate general where you're applying. When you make an appointment, you'll get a confirmation and it'll give you a specific time. So please come at the scheduled time so that way we can make sure it's very orderly. You'll do a security check-in at the entrance where you have to leave your phones and other electronics. Don't bring any big computers or anything because we're not able to store those. So you'll be sent away if you bring big electronics like a computer. So keep that in mind. Then you'll do your document intake. So that's where you'll show all the required forms that you need. You do fingerprinting. So don't be nervous of that. It's just fingerprints. And then the final step, that's when you'll do the interview with me or someone else who will be interviewing you. And so that's just, don't be nervous during this interview. If you have all the documents, you have your reasoning, it's a very quick process that once you do it. So just be natural, be fluid, just be able to talk about why you want to apply for this program and that you have all the forms so you're not scrambling, during the interview. And then what to bring to the interview. So you have to bring a valid passport with a validity date of at least 6 months beyond the period of stay in the US. So make sure that's up to date. You'll need a recent photo-sized, it's a 5x5 centimeter on a white background. So make sure it's not a colored background, showing your full face straight ahead. It's not any side profiles. You'll need a confirmation page of your DS-160. So that's after you fill out the application, you need to print out the confirmation page so we can see it. You'll need your I-20 form for F again, or your DS 2019 for J. Print out proof also of your service fee payment to show that you've paid it already. And then optional, you don't have to bring this if you don't want to, or if you don't have it, but a scholarship confirmation from the university or a sponsorship letter. So again, if you got LPDP, if you got a Fulbright, sometimes those are things that you can bring just if you want to show that to the officer. Okay, and as I mentioned, what to leave at home, please leave your laptop, don't bring that. Any extra documents and paperwork that is not necessary, you can leave those at home too. Okay, and then the visa processing time. So normally visas take around 2 to 4 working days to finish unless there's things that we might need to look into. So those are under administrative processing. Those can take a little bit longer. And visas can be issued up to a year before your classes start. But when you get your visa, for the student visa, you can only enter the US 30 days, no more than 30 days before the start date. So you can't enter before that, but once the 30 days hits, then you can enter. And then effective June 20 of last year, F1 and F2 student visa Indonesian passport holders, as I mentioned, require this additional 195 reciprocity fee. So that's what you'll pay once you are issued and approved for the F student visa. Okay, and so there for J visa holders specifically, so I mentioned this was the one for the exchange programs for education, culture, the arts. So there is a 2-year home country physical presence requirement. So basically, you'll be informed if you're subject to this 2-year home country requirement once you do all the steps, apply for the program, get the application. And that's basically once you finish this program, when you're done with it, you have to come back to Indonesia, to your home country, for at least 2 years before applying for another visa to go back to the US. And so you can find out more information of this on our website. And also when you're looking into these programs and the specific J visa, it'll also have a lot more information related to this. Okay, and then travel day. So once everything is good to go, congratulations, you got your visa, you got all your documents. So don't forget to bring in your carry-on. So when you're flying to the US, you need your passport with your visa and either your Form I-20 or your Form DS 2019. And then also have it on a sheet of paper on your phone, the name and phone number of your designated school official, just in case there's any issues maybe while you're traveling and you need to get in touch with them or ask them a question. Just make sure you have that on hand. And then if anyone also needs it, you can provide it to the officer. And then so when should you contact your designated school official? So every time you drop a class or change your major, talk to them. If you want to transfer to a new school, we get a lot of people who want to go to a different college and then they want to transfer eventually. So make sure to talk to your DSO about that. Maybe if there's family issues that come up or health issues and you need to take a break from school or need to travel outside the United States, please talk to your DSO because they'll be able to provide information regarding that. If you move to a new address, you want to make sure they have your current address on file. Request a program extension. Maybe you need to take more classes for the program in order to graduate. If there's any SEVIS-related issue, you want to make sure that's always good and active. You can also contact the SEVP, so that's related to SEVIS and different schools. So that's our Department of Homeland Security, and they'll have more information on that. And all of these, we'll provide links at the end, but they're all also on our website, and you can find them online. Okay, so how to maintain the status. So once you're in the United States, you're taking classes, you're doing your program. When you travel, follow these rules. As I mentioned, don't enter the US no more than 30 days before your program starts. And after your program ends, congrats. For your I-20 and DS 2019, F visa holders have 60 days where they can stay in the US before they need to go back to their home country. And J visa holders have 30 days before they need to leave the US. And again, contact your designated school official when you enter the US just so they can know that you're there, that you're good to go, you arrive safely, and then contact them again when you arrive at the school. Okay, and then when you're studying in the US, make sure to follow these rules. Attend and pass all your classes. For international students, you have to study full-time. So what that means is you need at least 12 credit hours per term, per semester, so you can't take anything less than that or that won't be considered full-time. Again, contact your DSO with any problems that you might have. Maybe you missed too many classes or you need help with a specific issue, make sure to reach out to them. Don't work without permission, okay? You have to make sure you get permission for that. You can also ask your designated school official questions about that if you want to work. And you can't be away from your classes no more than 5 months or else you'll lose that student status unless there's specific things that you talked about before. You get information regarding that if you need to take some time away. So can I work? Can you work while studying in the US? So working in the US, that's regulated by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, or we call that USCIS. And so on their website, there's so much information about if you're an international student and you want to try to work when they're in the US, so make sure to look at that. F1 visa holders, so they can work up to 20 hours a week, so that's the maximum you can work, and that's specifically on-campus jobs. So those are jobs that your school has, maybe working in the library or working as a teaching assistant for a professor, and that's a maximum of 20 hours a week. But after you complete one full academic year in the US, F1 visa holders can actually apply for off-campus work through other companies or businesses through our OPT. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that, and that's our optional practical training program. And one thing to note, I don't know if a lot of you know this, if you have a degree that's in STEM, so like science, technology, math, usually it's 1 year after you graduate for normal F1 visa holders for OPT, where you can stay in the US to work for that 1 year. But if your degree is anything related to STEM or even STEAM, the arts, it's a 3 years. So you can stay in the US working for 3 years under OPT STEAM. Okay. And so here are some useful links. Make sure to take a photo of these too. And they're also on our website. But make sure, again, you're registered for your SEVIS and you paid your SEVIS fee. That's at our fmjfee.com. Apply for the visa and make sure to make your interview appointment as soon as possible. The summer months is always busy because there's so many students and Fs and Js applying. So as soon as you receive confirmation from your school that you've been accepted, get started on that visa application process as soon as possible, just so you're not rushing at the last minute trying to get a visa before your program starts. For more information about maintaining your student status, you can go to those websites there, Study in the States, and then ice.gov. And for any specific student visa questions, please email this Consul@state.gov. So that website goes to our visa section at the embassy. So if you have any specific questions, this is the new address that we're using for any specific questions related to student visas. And again, you can learn more going to this link, studyinthestates.dhs.gov, and that will have more information related to schools that you want to apply for, different programs, and what are the requirements for that. So yes, that is the end of this presentation, but now we'll move into the Q&A.
Right.
So I'll come over here.
Thank you, Cassia. So anyone who has a question, if you're on, if you guys are on Instagram or Zoom, you can type in your questions, and then I will receive the questions from our team. And before we get to the Q&A session, I do have a couple of questions first for you, Cassia. So you've mentioned SEVIS fee quite a few times before, right? Do you mind explaining what a SEVIS fee is and how do students get it?
Yes. So the SEVIS fee, so that's after you've applied and been accepted to your program. You'll receive more information related to that, but that's basically what every international student who wants to go to study in the United States, they have to pay that fee because basically that's what puts you in the system so that we're able to track, how many international students we have coming here and that you can maintain that status. So you'll receive more information about, when you need to pay that and everything, and that's after you are accepted and you've applied for your specific school program.
So there are processes to pay the fee. It's not like, oh, you know what, I want to pay the SEVIS fee so I can make the appointment for the visa. It's nothing like that.
It's all required.
It's all
yes,
required.
for
Okay.
that.
All right. We do have a couple of questions from our audience online. So the first one I'll take. This one is a good one. Can I apply for summer internship with J1 visa?
That is a good question. It would also depend on how long your J1 is for and what specific program you're doing it for. That's a question that you might want to ask your designated school official because they could have more information regarding that. Because usually when you apply for that specific program, it gives you the allotted time for how long that program is. And you'd want to check with your DSO if you're eligible to work when you're under that program.
Okay. And that, that's very helpful because, we mentioned about OPT and CPT as well. So, that applies to that, right? It's the same regulation, basically?
Yes, and so OPT happens after you've finished your program, too. And as I mentioned, that's the 1 year. You can start, so after you've done one full academic year in the US, that's when you can go on OPT. So if you want to find an internship or an off-campus job, that's what you can use. And then after you've graduated, you've finished your program, again, remember, that's the 1 year where you can stay in the US working for that company or for that internship or job. And then after you finish that, you have to come back to the US unless you do a major that relates to science, technology, math, then that's 3 years of OPT. But you have to show, that you're working at a legit company and that you've had experience with that. And that's something, again, you can talk to your program and your advisors about.
All right, thank you. You mentioned something that's very interesting. So when you showed the picture of a US visa, you mentioned that this is the expiration date and... Yeah.
That's okay.
You want to go back to the slides? Okay. We're going to fire up those slides in a bit. So this one. So when you showed the picture of the US visa, you mentioned that the expiration date, that is the last day for students to come into the US, to get into the US.
Yes, because the visa is basically, those are the dates when you're allowed to come in to enter the US. It's not the dates of how long you have to stay in America. I don't know where.
It's quite in the beginning,
I
think,
know.
yeah?
But yeah, so it's not, yes. So this little note at the bottom, So the expiration date, you'll see that on the visa up there. So the last day, you can use it to seek entry into the US. So even if you're in the US and then it's expired, that doesn't mean you have to leave. It just means that if you do end up, you finish the program and you leave the US, you can't go back into the US unless you get a new visa. So yeah, it has nothing to do with how long you may stay in the United States.
So that's okay. So let's say if I get into the United States one day before the visa expires, as long as I don't leave the country, then it's okay for me to stay there as long as my 20 is still valid.
Yep, as long as your service is active, as long as your I-20 is valid, you're on OPT. So just make sure you're not, staying past any expiration of anything, and that you're coming back to your home country when it's the right time.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're gonna take one or two questions from the audience here first before you go back to the
And
audience.
I'm going to preface too that if you have any specific questions related to your visa, please email the website I gave before, the JAC Consul at state.gov, because I can't personally answer any specific questions related to that. And I mentioned too, this is a very busy time because it's student visa season, and we really want to help you, and we want to help students who need to get their student visas. So if you're stressed because there might not be an appointment soon enough, there is a way that you can apply for an expedited interview. And to do that, you'll again either email our JAC Consul website and send an email to them saying, I'm a student, I have my acceptance, my program starts this and this date, I need to get a visa before I go, and we'll do our best to help you get an expedited interview. Or you can also do that once you make an appointment back on that website where you made the original appointment, okay? So we're really prioritizing students because we want you guys to get to the US and start your program on time. But yes, any questions?
So I think we have two questions. We'll go with the, okay.
And please say your name and what school you're going to if you've been accepted.
Check. Okay, my name is Agus. I will be attending the Teachers College, Columbia University for my PhD. I have several questions here. The first one, I already obtained my J1 visa earlier this month. I also recognize your face, and I know. When I check at my DS 2019 form, there is a stamp by the interviewer. So should I keep this my DS 2019 that already stamped until the end of my program? Because I'm afraid that no one told me to keep that until the end of my program. I'm afraid I will lose it eventually, and then there will be something happen to me. This is my first question. And the second one is, can the J1 visa be used to travel for a conference to other countries? If suppose my expiration for my J1 visa is in 2025, but my PhD program will be for 4 years. What about the J1 expiration? I will be attending the conference in 2026 while the J1 visa is already expired. Can I travel for a conference in other countries? So those are two questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me just answer your second one while it's fresh in my head. So again, as I said, so the expiration date, the last day you can seek entry into the US. So unfortunately, if the visa has expired, so you mentioned it'll expire in 2025, but then the conference is a year later, you can't go back into the US because the expiration date has ended. So with that, you'll either need to get a new visa or the same visa for the length of the program, but you won't be able to go back into the US if you leave, if it's been expired already past the date. So that's just a question to answer to keep in mind. And then your first question, can you remind me? It slipped my head. Oh yes, the stamp. Okay.
Yeah, the stamp. Yeah.
Yes. So keep that form because also sometimes Js have to renew their visa too. So we've seen, applicants will be renewing their J visa, and sometimes with that, you don't have to come back in for an interview. We have what's called the interview waiver program, and that's something where if you had a visa, this is not just for student visas, but if you've had a tourist visa, and if you're reapplying to renew it, and it's within 4 years of when it expired, then you can apply for the interview waiver program and just send your passport and the documents in. So J students will do that as well, and they send their old DS 2019 with the stamp so that we can see, that everything looks good, it's been approved, and then we're just renewing it so you can finish your program. And sometimes you'll need a new one as well. And also we have our principal officer from our consulate in Medan, Bernard, here today, and he can also share more about that as well. They're good.
Sorry, so actually it's a very good question. And again, hello to everyone. I'm the principal officer at the consulate in Medan, but also I am the acting consul general here in Jakarta. So one thing to remember for your DS 2019 is that yes, you need to keep it, and you need to keep it with you when you present yourself to the port of entry. So a lot of people have a tendency that I'll put my documents, I'll put things into my checked luggage. Don't do that. Because the officer at the port of entry will be looking for everything. They'll be looking for your passport, they'll be looking for your visa, they'll be looking for your I-20 and your DS 2019. So make sure you have it with you. And I know that there's always a possibility of losing it, but at least once you're in the United States, if you do lose it, that's one of those things that you can do to talk to your DSO about issuing you a new one, okay? And one more thing, and I want to stress that Cassia did a great job presenting about this. So again, a round of applause for her.
Thank you.
One more thing to make sure your experience at the embassy is smooth is that when you take your photos, make sure you don't wear your glasses. Several years ago, the regulations changed, and eyeglasses are no longer allowed in your visa photos. So make sure you take your photos without your glasses. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard.
Okay, so we have another great question from Zoom. The question is it possible to extend the J1 visa from the US, not the home country?
Yes, so it is possible, depending on the visa and the program you're doing, to extend it. And that's when you would go on to what I mentioned before, USCIS, U.S. Customs and Immigration, and on their website they have information about that, because they're the ones who would work with you to extend that visa, or if you're trying to change it maybe to a work visa or a different one. But as I mentioned before, make sure you know, especially for J's, there is that 2-year home country physical presence requirement. And so with that, you need to come. You have to come back unless you get a waiver or anything else. You have to come back to your home country for 2 years before you can try to apply for a new visa to go back to the U.S., either to work or to do a different study program.
Got it. So always talk to the program officers or the university.
Yeah, program officers, USCIS. I'm working with them.
Perfect. All right, let's take another question from our audience here. Okay, the gentleman in the blue shirt.
Okay, thank you for the time. My name is Andika. I got accepted on master in Arizona State University. My question is, I'm helping my wife to get her G2 visa. What's the problem to make her get longer than usual to get their visa? The problem about administration after interview to get the visa. I mean, what problem can make her get longer the visa than usual? Usually takes 2 or 4 days. What things that make longer than 4 days, something like that? Thank you.
So you're saying she's already done her interview and she's waiting for her visa?
No, not yet. He's going to take interview next week, but I'm afraid he can get the visa longer than in 4 days, because we have planned to go to USA and already buy the ticket.
I see.
Thank
So
you.
you're asking if it's if they're
Yes. No, thank you for your question. That's a good question. So I mentioned, so normally visas take around 2 to 4 business days. So we don't work on Saturdays and Sundays, so keep that in mind. So we're not processing visas on the weekends. So when I say 2 to 4 days, that's 2 to 4 business days during the week. And unless there's no issues or anything with the application, it would be ready within then. But I mentioned sometimes, not because of anything in our office, but maybe other things, visas and applications can be subject to administrative processing, which basically means there's things that need to be resolved before we can issue their visa. And so we would let them know during the interview if their visa needs to be take a little longer for this administrative processing. But if not, if everything's good to go, you have all the required documents, you have everything set, you've paid all the necessary fees, it would take within those days that I mentioned. Thank you.
Pretty clear? Okay. So, another question. What are the financial proof or documents that people need to bring when they come in for the interview?
That's a great question. So I mentioned you need to bring proof of your SEVIS fee so that you've paid your SEVIS payment. You want to make sure you print out either the bank statement that shows that you've paid it or anything else to show that it's been paid for already and it's all good to go. Other documents, I mentioned you could also bring scholarship documents to show that your program is fully paid for or funded either by a government, by the Indonesian government, example LPDP, or if you've got a Fulbright scholarship from the Department of State from the US that's paying for your program. Those are other documents of showing that it's proof of payment. But again, don't forget the SEVIS fee because that's important to make sure that you've paid it before you come in for your interview.
All right. Anyone here want to ask any question? Okay.
I'm happy to answer questions too about, once you're in the US, being a student, what's fun things to do. The panelists before us had great experiences and great answers too that they shared.
Okay, hello, thank you for the time. My name is Rachel, and I'll also study at Teachers College, Columbia University. Currently, I'm in the process of my visa application for the J1 visa. My question is, I was a little confused when I am filling out the DS-160 under the section of the living arrangement and also the intended arrival date, because I haven't bought the ticket because I think I'll just buy it once I get the visa. And for the living arrangement itself, I've talked to some landlords, but I haven't yet decided on which or where I will be staying. So there, I was just filling the address of that living arrangement that I have talked to, but would it be a problem if I will not be staying there? And also, will it be a problem if I'll be arriving at the USA before the intended date that I filled out on the DS-160? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So no, that's not a problem at all. So if you don't know, you haven't bought your ticket yet, you don't know when you'll get to the US, it's okay to put maybe an estimated arrival date, so you can put a date when you think you'll arrive. And that can always change. So it's okay if you don't land in America on that exact day you put on your form, but as long as it's around there, because we don't know what could happen with flights and anything, so that's totally fine. And for address, some students will put maybe the address of their university if they don't yet have a set address of where they'll be living. Maybe you could put the place that you lived before if you think you might live around that area. And again, you can always work with your designated school official to once you arrive in the US, you arrive at the school, and make sure to talk with them so they have your records on file where they know where you'll be living. They know that you have your housing all set up. So that's totally okay.
Right. Okay. So because of the time, we're just going to take one question from our audience online, and then we can wrap this up. So the last one is, let's see. This is a very good question. I think we need to clarify this. Is it possible for international students to work outside of campus during their study?
Yes, so I did mention that, but briefly during the presentation. So for your first year, so you're doing the first year of your program and you want to work, you can only work on campus because you're not yet eligible for the OPT that I mentioned. And remember, it's a max of 20 hours a week, so you can't work full-time 40 hours. It can only be a max of 20 hours a week on an approved on-campus job. And again, that's something you can talk to your designated school official about. Any advisors there, they can give you tips, talk to other international students that may have done jobs on campus that you're interested in. They can give you advice about that. And then once you complete one full academic year and you're going on to your second year, that's when you can do the off-campus employment under the OPT program. And again, you'll talk to your designated school official about that, making sure you're following all the rules and regulations, so that way you're making sure to find a job that complies with all the specifics that fall under that. So remember, first year on campus, 20 hours max, and then after that, that's when you can look for off-campus jobs or internships. And those can be really helpful too, especially if you know you might want to continue working in the US after, under OPT, or eventually later on applying for a work visa. A lot of students will, after they graduate and they're working, then they'll change to the H-1B worker visa. And those are all things that can prepare you well for your career and your jobs in the future.
Do keep in mind though, working outside of campus only applicable if they are under OPT or CPT program.
Yes, once they finish their first year.
All right. So anyone who is watching at home and here, thank you so much for joining. But before we end end the session, I want to say hi to our audience in Medan and our advisor in Medan, Dimas. Hi, Dimas. I wonder if you can hear us.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Okay. So Dimas, it seems like you have a very good turnout in Medan as well.
Yes, we have 38 people come to our PDO session. We have a lot of students who are going to US this fall in 2024. And we also have family and friends, and we also have alumni joining us here, and of course, some representative from our host institution, UMSU.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for tuning in with us, and I hope the session was very useful for you as well. And before we end the session, I want you to say something maybe to the audience here, or who has everyone who is watching online, maybe any message and advice that you want to give them.
Okay, so for everyone who are going to US this fall, I would say good luck. Have a really great time in the US. And for everyone who are seeking to try to pursue your education in US, you can go to EducationUSA Center anywhere. You can meet the advisors, and you're going to get support there.
All right, thank you so much, Dimas. Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Say closing. Yeah, so thank you again for tuning in. I hope all these sessions were helpful for you and kind of gives you more clarity and understanding about what to expect, not just for the visa process and the application process, but once you're in America. And we love international students. We love having people come to the US. We love learning about your culture, being able to share about our culture, and having this exchange opportunity for young students and really bright people that will go on to have amazing careers. And so we really are grateful that you guys are here today and interested in studying. And also our Consul Chief Bernard would like to say a few words as well.
No, this is just, I just want to say thank you very much for being with us today. And I also want to say to Dimas and everyone in UMSU, Horas, Mejuajua.
Horas.
And I'm having a great time here, but I can't wait to get back to Medan. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. All right, so everyone who's watching and who's coming here, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate your time for coming here. And as Dimas has mentioned before, if you guys are thinking of pursuing your studies in the US, please don't forget to contact Education USA. I hope you guys took a screenshot or a picture of the QR code that has been mentioned by May previously. But on behalf of Education USA Indonesia advisors, Dimas, Zaki, Lilis, May, Santika, Iqbal, and also Fadil, who is coming here all the way from Makassar today at America. We want to thank you all for trusting us and for joining this session today. Good luck with everything, and we hope someday that you will be standing on the stage alongside of us and share your experiences and inspire the next students who are going to the US. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. Have a good rest of the weekend, and floor is back to you, Farah.
Okay, thank you so much, Caroline, and also Cassia from Vice Consulate US from the US Embassies Jakarta. And thank you so much for everyone tuning here today in America, online and offline. And we would also like to have a little message for you. Have a pleasant flight and have a great time in the United States. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Farah, and see you at the next America event. Goodbye.